Marines are the lifeblood of American freedom, serving in some of the harshest situations to secure that freedom across the globe. This is the Lounge with Legends show, celebrating their transformation from battlefield to business. The Lounge with Legends show with Marty the Moac Martinez and James A. Phelps, a.k.a. Spartan 6.
Caught you off guard, didn't it?
Caught me off guard. Oh my God. Normally I'm used to hearing that nice voice of yours saying, we're live.
We're live. Well, we are live, and we are. I was looking at the screen. We are on episode 13.
Oh my gosh. Good thing I'm not superstitious.
The one with the deadlift diva. I'm excited. It's been a great week. How was your fourth?
It was great. It was great.
America.
We stayed here at the house. What's that?
America. Wait.
Oh, America. Yeah. So we stayed at our house and honestly just decided that we didn't want to go out and venture because I know everybody's been sitting at home and dealing with the pandemic. So we kind of just wanted to do a stay at the house 4th of July. I may or may not have bought some sparklers that did not work. So anyway, we had a disaster with the sparklers, but other than that, we're good to go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we took it super chill. We were here and did some charged some meat up on the back deck and did some sparklers as well. And we were gonna do a movie on the back, but Isabella decided it's too hot, so let's just watch it inside. Smart kid. So we did that. But,
she is smarter than her father, just saying.
Doesn't take much. No, it was really cool though. It was really neat. I got to one of my buddies from college. Hector Montemayor, Southwest Texas Bobcat, got promoted to colonel. So we did that in DC on Monday. So it's always pretty neat when you get to reconnect with people you went to college with, where you're a bunch of goofy cadets. And then next thing you know, these are colonel. And you're like, this is so cool.
It's actually kind of scary. Some of the cadets that I was cadets with.
I know, right? So it's neat, especially like, or people that I was privates with, and then you look and now like they're sergeant majors. I'm like, man, we were a bunch of knuckleheads in the back of a 5-ton truck doing push-ups all the way back from Fort Stewart. So.
Well, I remember when I came in, I thought a lieutenant colonel and a colonel were the smartest things on the face of the earth. And then I realized that Marty was a lieutenant colonel. Then I just said, nah, that can't
be. Just dashed your dreams, didn't it?
That just ruined my perception and dreams of that. But anyway, just kidding.
No,
I'm going to pick on you a little bit, right?
But it's true. But you're sitting there and you're like, man, these guys are so smart. And or you're also like, they're so old. And then you get to that age and you're like, damn, platoon sergeant was like 27 and I'm on 27. Well, they weren't really that old, really. I mean, damn.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is I'm still younger than you. Airbound.
And you always will be.
Airbound. Thank you.
You have better hair. I mean, there's all this.
That is true. That is genetics. I had to thank my father and my mother for those great genes.
Oh, my goodness. Virginia in the house. That's one of our big fans. We had such a great time with her when she was here. She was in California for a while. She was there for like a month, it seemed like.
I know you can't mess with Hollywood and stars, man. I'm just glad that she remembers us.
Yeah. So, and then, so what do we got coming up this week? Or not this week, but next week?
Man, we have some big things coming down at Fort Bragg, going on at Fort Bragg next week, don't we?
We do. We've got, see if I can switch it and make it look cool. We got, there we go. Triple Nickel.
You did it. Great job.
Triple Nickel's going to be over with our boy, John L.
Yeah.
And Veterans Grow America has got, I mean, the whole family's coming together, reunited back at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, center of the universe. We're going to be down there. We got Dano from Weekly Dose of Dano. He's going to be there as part of JTS 214. So we're going to be there for that. So
absolutely. That's exciting stuff. Some big things in horizon, man. Some big things.
Yeah. And we're going to be on the lookout for us. We're going to have some bam, bam, bam footies.
This way.
Footies there. So I'm just going to go back to America because all my signs are off.
Thank you. Thank you.
But so this week, let's talk about who do we got this week. Do you remember?
Yes, of course I remember, because I know that she can outlift both of us together.
We can. She can.
But
together we can take her.
Oh, I know. Together, but it would take both at the same time. And then I would have to phone my dad because, he's a retired Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. So, I got to give a shout out to my dad because he's like, how come you don't have any Air Force folks on there? I said, we will solve that problem ASAP.
We had one last week. We had Lauren.
Oh,
Lauren, who got tricked into seeing the movie before the movie and went to the MEP station.
That's right. I see Lauren's such a star. I forget that he was in the military.
So we got Meghann, who's a 10-year Air Force Veteran Firefighter. I put all around badass. I mean, she did all sorts of cool stuff. Now she is I'm looking at it here, Deadlift Diva, and most recently an NLP coach. So she's
co-founder and producer of the Vet Struggle.
Yeah, she's awesome. So I'm excited to bring her on the stage. Are you ready for this?
I am ready because I have some questions. I'm trying to get back in the gym, so I'm ready.
All right. Well, I don't know. I see her in the green room right now. It looks like I don't know what she's doing. It looks like she's doing
push-ups.
She's doing push-ups and she's doing some deadlifts. It's kind of crazy. Let's get her on the show. Bam! Me, not supposed to be me. There she is.
Do that. It's all about you. Always will be. Always has been. Oh wait, long line.
What is going on? We're so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, it's good. So I've got this huge bio about you. It's awesome. I'm just like so inspired. 10-year Air Force firefighter, which is just like an Aeromedical technician. Tell us about that. Before we even get started, let's just get right into that.
Yeah.
How the heck do you get started into that? Because that's just most people just don't jump into that. That's just crazy.
No, that's
Thank you. So it took me a little bit longer in life to kind of figure out what I wanted. I think in my early 20s, I hadn't joined the military yet and was, I'd done all kinds of cool jobs. I'd, sold cars and sold motorcycles. And then I one day was like, what am I doing with my life? And I decided I was going to be a firefighter. And I started taking the courses. My aunt was a flight paramedic in Illinois, and I went and took my EMT course. And so I actually started out as a civilian first in Colorado, where I'm from, and got a lot of experience with an amazing department. And actually my ex-boyfriend was a cadet at the Air Force Academy that we had dated, prior. And he was like, you should go join the Air Force. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I'll go check it out. So I did. And I was a straight shooter with my recruiter. I'm like, listen, I'm 26, almost 27 years old. I'm not going to come in and do some job that I hate. I'm already qualified as a firefighter. And so that's what I did. I joined the Air Force in January 2009, and it was awesome. Went to Fire Academy. It's a very, at the time, it was still, I think, about a 95% washout rate for females, because it's the physical, capability of doing, there is no, at the time, I don't know, I've heard that they've changed it up, but there was no male female standards. There was just you pass this stuff and you better do it or you're going to be washed out. So
Right.
it was really,
I mean, that's what it should be. I mean, you basically, I mean, you crushed it. And, you know, my biggest question for a firefighter I've always wanted to ask is, how do you deal with the temperature? Because for me, I can feel like I could like deal with like putting out a fire, but the actual heat, when it gets hot, I kind of get shy and turn away. So how do you deal with that heat?
It is intense. It's you know, when you first go in, because you have to go in. I remember my first fire academy with my civilian department in Colorado. Our deputy fire chief took all the recruits in, and they had, you know, the burn buildings that they train in, and they got it to us, you know, they wanted it super, super hot. So you can tell the difference. And people are like, how do you tell the difference between hot and, you know, insanely hot? It's really hot. And it's like, well, you actually do. I mean, it was so bad that crawling on the, you know, because you're on the floor, it's smoked out, you can't see anything. And our trainer building, our burner, you know, I came out and I had blisters on my knees from crawling around just because of the heat between the inner liner of my bunker gear and the floor and the heat that was inside there, because they want us to know the conditions of, you know, backdraft and all, you know, flashover conditions that, you know, you have to be able to go in and be like, whoa, we should not be in here. So it's really intense. You go in and you're like, holy, you know.
Wow.
Did you ever have a situation you were, you know, for aircraft that that possibly, you know, crashed or something that you had to deal with or anything like that ever? Or
I have a great story. I was stationed in Aviano, Italy. And I can tell this now because, you know, at the time it's hilarious and this pilot probably got fired. But, you know, Aviano is a fighter wing. So it's F-16s predominantly. And, you know, you didn't really see a whole lot there as far as plane crashes, but I'm on first run engine. So on a in-flight emergency, typically the crash trucks are lined up, you know, rescue is going to be your first one responding and depending upon the call. And it came in as anti-skid failure. So the F-16 skid failure wasn't working. It was raining. Well, the engine's at the very end of the runway because we're kind of just back up for, you know, wherever our chief wanted us. And so how the F-16s land, you know, they'll come in and their wingman will guide them in and then they'll continue on and the F-16 will land. So our chief tells us, he gets on the radio. He's like, you know, AC is good on rollout, you know, telling us where to set up. And then my crew chief, who was a tech sergeant in E6 at the time, and I'm an airman, I'm riding in the backseat, and he's like, negative, the AC is not good. And I'm like, what is happening? You know, so I turn around because I can't see because I'm facing backwards. And I turn to look and this pilot had not only missed one barrier, so he failed to catch any of the barriers. He was like, oh, I got this. Just rolled through all 5 of them and realized he wasn't stopping and ejected. And you see the pilot running down the flight line, just booking it, you know, and we're like, oh my gosh. And
oh, geez.
$13 million aircraft like takes a nosedive right in front of us off the runway because he caught the chain and it like snapped the chain off at the end. Like you don't catch a chain, but it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, I mean, it's just, you know, right into the ground. So yeah,
I'm sure there was some chief master sergeant somewhere having a conniption fit on that one.
We had USAFEs and Ramstein, right? So not like 8 hours from us, from Aviano. So the next thing you know, we have like all the brass down and we got tents set up and everyone's all over the fire station. And I'm like, not hanging out here. I'm going home because it was way too much rank and too many people like, what happened? You know?
Well, plus I'm sure they were like, yeah, let me go find out what's going down in Aviano.
Yeah.
I need to be there.
As they fly from MacDill Air Force Base, Florida. But anyway,
that's awesome.
What was your favorite duty assignment? What Air Force Base was your favorite?
Hands down, really? Aviano. Oh yeah. People are so mad too. I talked to so many people that are like, you got Aviano right out of tech school as a brand new airman? What? And I was like, yeah, man, I put in. My first pick was Aviano Air Base, Italy. I said, wow. I'm going to Italy. And me and 5 of my buddies, all through Fire Academy, all 5 of us got Italy together. So
that's pretty cool.
We'd all become friends in basic and tech school through Fire Academy. And then we got there and it was just, It's amazing. I mean, it's a high ops base. You know, you got tons of exercises because it's a NATO base, but
right.
And that's why I laugh when people are like, oh, Aviano sucks. I'm like, are you insane? I mean, you're in Italy. I mean, I traveled everywhere. I traveled the world, and that was my goal. And I had amazing food and history. And I mean, I went all over Europe, and I absolutely loved Italy.
Yeah, I was in Vicenza from 09 to 12, and people were hating on me because I was supposed to go to Colorado from Hawaii, and they said, "Hey, got bad news. We're not going to Colorado from Hawaii. Instead, you're going to Italy." And I was like, "Oh,
that's bad news." Yeah, right. Yeah, Vincenzo's like what, 2.5 hours from Aviano?
Yeah, so we would do that drive occasionally, but for our exercises and stuff like that, and base out of there. So yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yes.
Yeah, there's worse places to be than northern Italy.
Sure.
The Dolomiti. But so how long were you there?
I was there actually same time as you. I was there 2009 to 2011. So
August, wow, okay,
August, yeah, it was awesome. And then I guess my payback was being sent to Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. It was like,
oh God.
I was like, why? Why would you do this to me?
Yeah, you gotta pay some time.
Yeah, and it's Sumter, so there's there's nothing there. It's like awful.
They could at least sent you to Charleston. That'd have been nice.
Right, Charleston would have been better. Okay, so I was 45 minutes from Columbia, which Fort Jackson's there. So, and then Charleston's like an hour and a half. But I was like, I hate this place. What am I doing? I hated South Carolina. I was like, the armpit.
So where did you become? You were firefighter of the year, or
yeah,
was that out of Italy, or was that out of?
That was out of Italy. So, I volunteered for. That's kind of how I got into the groove of things there. The shift that I was on, I didn't even know they'd put me up for that award. It's a peer nominated award, so it's your peer, brother firefighters. I was the only female in the fire department. I was the lowest ranking, so I got a lot of crap, from the guys. Yeah. You have to really thick skin. You got to be really tough, and because if you don't, they'll eat you alive,
Right.
So, and I can give it back just as well as I can take it. So, thank you, Virginia. So I thrived at it. I loved it. I found my passion for fitness actually there because my commander, Volin, told me to lead PT, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So, and CE, firefighters are part of the civil engineering squadron. Mm-hmm. So CE is predominantly men anyway. I mean, you've got dirt boys, HVAC, Power Pro, EOD, fire department, all the workhorse of the Air Force. And so yeah, that's kind of how I found my passion for fitness too. But I was always, I had, master sergeants that would tease me, and they're like, you would run people out of that gym. They'd always be talking about you, like, oh, Trapp's in there, wow. Like, and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, seriously. So I left. I PCS to Shaw last week of August 2011, and got there. And then the firefighters ball is in October every year. And it's funny because if you know firefighters, we clown on each other a lot. I mean, they play jokes. They love to, give each other a bunch of crap, right? So I woke up, I was actually on shift. I came in on a Sunday morning, and I was on Facebook, and one of my Italian friends, who was one of our Italian firefighters, he messaged me on Facebook, and he's like, congratulations on winning firefighter of the year. And I went off. I'm like, oh, hilarious, Fabrizio. I was just berating him. And he was like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, yeah, I'm not falling for that crap.
I mean, what an honor. I mean, that's the best way to get it though. Surprise, right? Not knowing why you're being put in by your peers, and then ultimately winning and not knowing about it and then finding out. That's amazing. Cause I mean, Marty, I think maybe got peered out of Ranger School a couple times. I don't know. But anyway, just kidding. Just kidding.
They love me.
Yeah, that's how I found out from one of the chiefs. My fire chief's wife actually messaged me and told me to, and I was like, okay, if she's telling me it's real, and I was like, no way. So yeah, it was definitely, I would say, the highlight of I'm a huge honor to be given that, and to be like I said, I didn't even know they put me in for that award. And yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome.
Have this cool big heavy statue of firefighter, holding the axe. And
Well, that's
So
something you always have with you, forever too. That's a memory that don't be there forever. And did you get to did they when you won this award, did they parade you around with USO or something crazy like that, or was it? I didn't mean, because how when you win awards, sometimes they're like, hey, won an award.
They sent it to my guys at Shaw, and they presented it to me in a little ceremony at the fire station. And yeah.
I wish you could have got it in Italy. That'd have been better. The guys that put you in for, right? That'd have been awesome. That'd have been a heck of a party there.
Yeah, we partied a lot in Italy.
So what was your favorite city in Italy?
Oh gosh, that's so hard. I love so many places in Italy, but I have to say Florence. Florence is near and dear to my heart. It's just amazing, and it's kind of got that more of the, because there's a college there, so the college kids are there, and but it's not even really about that. I don't know how to. I mean, I'm sure, Marty, you've been to Florence?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, the culture there, and the shops, and the food, and the environment, and I love it. It's beautiful. The Duomo. Oh my gosh. I mean,
I have to agree with my girl Virginia. Mine's Verona.
Verona is a great place too. Yep.
And I loved it because I was in Vicenza, and I could ride. My buddy and I, we would ride our bicycles from Vicenza all the way up to Verona, and then we would have a coffee there. We would go say hi to Romeo and Juliet's, Juliet's
right.
cafe, and then we would ride back. And you would do that, and that's where we would get our, you could get your Suave, you could pick up whatever you wanted, and everything was there. But then I didn't have a full appreciation for Venice. I avoided Venice like the plague when I was really there.
We went a lot
because it's just it was so touristy, and I just didn't like it. But then once I went back, I took my daughter, and we did her 3-year-old birthday there. And we stayed in Venice proper. And that's when I was like, okay, I absolutely love it, because I'm here. We were at the Sangriti Palace. And I was like, this is the place. This is beautiful. You're right there. You wake up, and this was it.
Somebody wanted to make an appearance because they saw you on the show. So this is Alana.
Hi, Alana.
Say hi.
She's like, oh my god.
This is the behind the scenes that you never get to see when you're a dad and a entrepreneur and doing things all at the same time.
Hey,
absolutely.
Go with the flow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have kids, but I have my dog over here. Like, what are you doing? Why are you?
I know, we got the same thing. We got Sebastian already planning this trip to Italy.
Yeah, Italy. I tell everyone, I'm like, go to Europe, go to Italy. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say. So here's what I tell everybody is, to get the budget version of Italy, go to Slovenia and Croatia.
So okay. I have an awesome, we did a rafting, whitewater rafting trip as a shift, as our, because you have different shifts on the fire department.
Right.
We did one through ITT up to Slovenia because we're only 2 hours away, and $75 for the entire trip. And they fed us, they took us on a whitewater rafting thing that we left in the morning. And then we went up a hike into the mountain and saw the caves where they actually hid out during World War II.
Oh yeah. Right. Over in Pistoia.
Yes. It was amazing. It was, Slovenia is beautiful, and
we did that in Pistoia. We did that as part of our exercises. When I was an exercise planner, they took us everywhere, and it was wonderful. But so
gorgeous.
This is the good life, but this isn't what got you into becoming an NLP coach, is it?
No, kind of, but not. Yeah, my other stuff.
Yeah. So all right. So Was it a culture shock? So let's get into all that after the break. We're going to get into the break in about 5 minutes. But so let's talk about the change from Italy to Shaw. Other than the culture shock of now the best Italian food is now Olive Garden and all you can eat breadsticks. No more Girassini.
And fried everything, fried pickles, fried Oreos, fried Twinkies. Like the South just wants to fry everything. And I was like, what is happening here? The culture shock was my first time in South Carolina, and it was rough. I was miserable. I you know, and then the humidity, like I don't know what it is about Sumter, and I think maybe because it's further inland, but the heat just sits on top of you. I mean, I'd go out to my pool at my apartments on my day off, and I'd make it 30 minutes in the summertime, and I'm like, I can't do this. You know, just go back inside. And it was, but yeah, the culture. I mean, you're coming from Italy to South Carolina, and Sumter is a conglomerate of just like they took the most random cultures of people and just shoved them into one town, because you've got like the retirees from the base, you know, you've got military retirees, and you've got like you'd be driving in like a nice area, and then all of a sudden you'd be in a trailer park, and I'm like, you know, and I'm from Colorado, so like, what is going on here? What is this stuff? And then you'd be in areas. They actually told me as a female, they're like, don't go to Walmart after 8 o'clock. Have somebody with you, carry a gun. I'm like, what? What are they often? Yeah. And they're like, no, this is like the worst, best kept secret in the Air Force. Like, they don't want you to know that it's pretty rough here. So.
Yeah, that's a great segue, because I was going to ask you. So you basically, when you left civilian life, joined the Air Force, you're kind of at the bottom, and then you got to Aviano, even though it's La Dolce Vita, you're still at the bottom.
Right.
Earn your stripes, earn it again. And then now you're at Shaw. And now you're having to not only do it inside the Air Force community, but outside of base as well, because you're not Southern, you're from Colorado. So I mean, what are these challenges like as an Air Force female? At this point, you're probably what, E5?
I was testing. Yeah. So I just put on senior airman, end of 2011, January 2012. And I was testing for staff sergeant, because in the Air Force, you take the written test. You have the written portion for your job, and then the written portion for Air Force history. So you study the PDG, the professional development. So yeah, I was an E4 going on E5, and it was hard. I really, I like a lot of my friends in the Air Force, they did 6 years, because they give you that extra stripe like 6 months early. And I'm like, you guys are so dumb. Like, why would you do that? You know, because I'm like, well, I did 4 years, and then that way I can decide if I want to stay in. And so I was coming up on my 4-year mark, and I really struggled, because I absolutely loved what I did. I mean, loved it. But I didn't get the best treatment sometimes, especially being a female. And I hate to say that, you know, and I hate to sound like because I'm not one of those kind of people, but it's tough. You put up with a lot of BS, you know, you put up with a lot of people who say stuff to you just because you're a woman. And it was hard. It got to the point where I was like, do I really want to keep putting up with this crap?
Right.
So I struggled kind of, because I'm like, I'm like right at that edge. I'm like, okay, you know, and they're like, and my first sergeant, I mean, he sat me down and was like, he was furious when I actually put in my papers, and he was like, what are you doing? We need more leaders like you. We need, you know, you were going to put on staff sergeant. You're going to go on to be a great leader, and da 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 da. And I was like, sir, I can't do this. Right. And I actually made the decision to go from active duty to guard at the time, because I was like, you know, I don't want to get completely out of the military, but I want a little bit more freedom in my personal time. And that's how I made the transition to the guard after my 4-year contract. And so, yeah, I was right on that edge. And
well, that's one of those things that's just total BS, if you're being honest. I mean, where, you know, if James or I are strict disciplinarians, it's they're a hard ass. But if it's Meghann, she's a bitch.
Oh yeah, I had all kinds of stuff said.
Right.
You know.
And I hear that from my wife, because she just relinquished battalion command last week. And, so she was telling me about, some of those things. And I'm like, and I know, but also then to hear it from her, I'm like, it's such a double standard. It's such bullshit. I'm sorry, Jen.
No, you're good. She's out. So we're good. You can go back to rated R, but,
hey, we got Dano in here. Sorry. Weekly dose of Dano. So everyone out there, weekly dose of Dano, he's dedicating this entire month on his TV show to veterans. And so he's looking for veterans. Meghann, you got to be on his show. You would be awesome.
I'll connect with you. Yeah.
Dano, I'm going to connect you guys. You guys are going to do this. It's going to be awesome. I think even Virginia's giving it. I don't know if Virginia's giving that a thumbs up or the previous statement. We're going to say to that one that I just said. We're just going to go with that one. She says it's a really good show. Okay, yes. He's a fantastic host.
Well, I know we're coming up on the break, but one thing I wanted to mention was, the thing that I've noticed is, we all have to fight prejudice as far as stereotyping and those kind of things. I can't imagine, I posted on here, girl dad, and you saw my daughter. I have 3 daughters, and to be transparent, my mindset changed as I watched them grow, as I'm watching them grow up. Because the thing is, not only are they dealing with, the physical appearance of who they are, but then not only, are you, whatever race you are, you got to add the gender too, and then you're trying to prove yourself. I couldn't imagine having that pressure, because when you're going through and you're like one of the first to go through any kind of thing like that, or just in a small community, it's got to take a lot of strength to do that. So I commend you for that. So,
there was situations like in Italy, everybody knew who I was. And I'm like, how does everyone know who I am? They're like, you're the only female firefighter in the entire base. Like everyone knows you.
That's significant. Well, then also our bases are so small. I knew all the firefighters because I was on Caserta, Italy. They're such small bases. Over in Vicenza. But no, that's pretty substantial. So let's do this. I want to get into the meat of what kind of got you to be where you are today after the break.
Sounds
all
good.
Right. So let's do that. So we're gonna cut over here and we're gonna show the triple nickel, because I love this commercial, and our boys are gonna be there for Bragg. It's awesome. So here we go.
From right to left, and every angle in between. Know what I mean? In this day and age, so many seem like they're lost inside a world and held captive in a dream. A glimpse of mediocrity, take one for the team. And even though this path is long and this place is unforeseen, gotta keep your feet moving, filling spaces in between, seeing places in your dreams. If you complacent by your means, by all means go back to sleep. The path is steep, there's no rest for the weary. If you intend to reach peaks, it gets deep. Come on, it's infinite, we still climbing. Yes, yes, y'all. And thanks for the positive vibes, but I still got a mountain to climb. Just take it one step at a time,
I'm gonna fall till I fall, gonna rise till I die. I'll never give in, if I wanna survive. Not gonna swallow my pride, I'll never give up, cause when it's all said and done, is what I've done enough. I push myself to the edge, I push myself to the brink. Is the toil all worth it? It makes me stop and think. But through the mud and the mire, the joy and the strife, no one can claim that I didn't live all of this beautiful life.
To all of us, and especially those of us that served. And so we ask you, what does freedom mean to you?
my chest would go out. I would get a sense of pride because I knew that I was representing everyone that came before me.
So I guess my thing is, don't be so quick to judge people by a book by its cover.
You're watching the Lounge with Legends TV show with your hosts, Marty Martinez and James A. Phelps.
Bam, there he is.
Yes.
All right.
I get excited about those things because, normally it doesn't happen like that. So,
all right. So you've had a pretty successful career up until this point, but something happened that has made you the awesome NLP coach that you are now, that helps people. And I'm reading your bio. That's what I'm looking over here. That helps people because you help them. And I'm reading here by sharing your story, you help them with their struggles of sexual trauma, post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth. And, that's what got you as a guest speaker to Army South, to speak to the leadership there at Fort Sam Houston, JBSA. Kind of what triggered that because you had to go through a dark journey at that point, and more importantly, you got out of that, and now you're being the awesome person that you are now. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was sharing before, I made that transition from active duty. I went straight from active duty into the Guard, and I ended up in Charlotte the first time, North Carolina, re-enlisted with North Carolina Guard, had a phenomenal unit there, and they didn't have any slots for firefighters. So I made the transition into Aeromedical Evacuation crew.
Okay.
Because I always wanted to be a PJ. And when I came in, they weren't letting women do any special forces minus, I think aerial gunner. Actually, I don't even think aerial gunner was open. I think SEER instructor was the only one open to females at that time. And so when I started hearing about the job, I was like, awesome. So I cross-trained into AirVac. I actually ended up at Fort Sam, and that's where my dad was. My dad was a medic in the Army, so I kind of followed in his footsteps on my second time around. And I loved it. I got put in charge of 65 airmen and sailors, because it's a Navy Air Force combined program. So it was very, very academically challenging. I mean, it's a really rigorous course, but it was awesome. And I ended up moving back home to Colorado in 2014. I'd missed my family and needed to be home. And so Colorado does not have a Guard air vac unit for the Air Force. They only have reserves. And that's how I ended up in Cheyenne, Wyoming with the Wyoming Guard, because I transferred, to the closest air vac unit. Well, 2016 comes around, and they came to me, one of the sergeants, and was like, "We are really hurting for firefighters." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm an air vac now. I just come home. I was in the Marshall Islands. I did 1 year in the Marshall Islands as a contracted firefighter that my commander let me go on because her husband was a firefighter, and great experience, made some great money and lived in the South Pacific for a while. So I was like, wow. I just got back and I'm ready to finally, get some deployments and get some things in with my air vac unit. And they were like, "We need you in fire." And I was like, "How does this happen? There's no way this happens." They tell you it happens, but it's like, it can happen, but it's very rare. It happened to me. They literally pulled me back to the fire department because that was my primary AFSC. They knew I was a firefighter. Been gone for 4 years out of the career field. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I put on, I was an E5. And they're like, "All right, we're going to Kuwait," and I was like, "What?" So we
welcome home.
Right. I spent more time gone I joined the Guard to be home more, and I was gone more in the Guard than I was in active duty. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
This isn't what I signed up for. So yeah, I said, all right, let's go. And we got triple tasked. We got hit hard, which means firefighters, we got 3 taskings at the same time. So we were tapped out. Our entire fire department was gone for the duration of, 6-7 months, and not even including the training months up to it, because
Mm-hmm.
we deploy in 6-man teams. So we had one team sent to Dubai, one team sent to Qatar, and then we were sent to Kuwait. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a cake deployment. It's Ali Salim, it's got a pool and a theater, like a deployment, and I was like, cool, awesome. I'm going to make some money and just focus and have fun. Right.
Yeah.
I get there, and 2 months into the deployment, I met this guy who was active duty. He was a structures person. He was also civil engineering, but like with Red Horse. And he was an E6. He was a tech sergeant. And he just kind of started talking to me, whatever. And I was like, what? And he boom. No, so we started seeing each other, and then I found out that he had lied about being married. And so I flipped out, like immediately ended the relationship, and was like, don't ever talk to me again. Like, you just jeopardized my career. Not to mention, it's like, I can't stand that. That's the biggest pet peeve I had within the military is people that cheat. And it's unfortunately it's everywhere, but it's, it's hard to prove in the military. So I I'm like, is that? Hopefully that's. I don't think. That's
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm closing out. I've got Messenger open. I'm
Closing
out.
I thought it was me. I'm like, oh no, I thought I.
No, I'm blowing up. Sorry, I'm closing everything.
That's what happens when you're popular. He gets blown up during the call.
So
like, Megan's on the show. How do I connect?
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Right. So I went about my business, and I actually got pulled off the truck. I was on a crew on a truck, and they asked me to be the NCOIC of logistics and the 911 dispatch operations. And I was like, what? And I was furious because firefighters, we like to be in the heat, literally, but you want to go on the calls, you want to be on the trucks. And I'm like, you're putting me on a desk. What?
Right.
And it was a huge tasking. I mean, it was 2 full-time jobs they combined into one position. So the NCOIC of both logistics for the fire department and the 911 dispatch, the EOC. And so I had all the airmen I was in charge of, plus the duty phone. And then I had logistics, and it definitely was my next, it actually made me a very well-rounded firefighter and a leader, because I was going into staff meetings as an E5 with all E7s and above, reporting to the fire chief. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So, but it was a great opportunity, and they saw my potential too. And they said that's why they picked me, because they knew I would get the job done. So during that time, this individual who I'd been dating pretty much kind of went off the deep end and started stalking me, and physically and sexually assaulted me right before he left to go home, because he was in a different rotation. And it completely messed me up. And I can say this now without breaking down like I used to and being triggered, because of the work that I've done with NLP. I mean, I was filled with so much rage and so much anger, and just, I look back on that deployment, and it's hard, because I saw who I was just so messed, I was angry. I was like flipping out on people, and just, I was not a good NCO. And I wasn't bad, but I was taking all my stuff out because of the circumstances. I mean, I've got these 2 jobs that I'm, that alone. I was going to school to finish my fire science degree. So I'm taking a class. I'm dealing with my assault, and I couldn't talk about it. I literally, because OSI was investigating, I was ordered not to speak about it at all. And they wouldn't send me home. I'm like, why am I still here? Do you guys really need me that bad that I have to stay here for the duration of what is happening? And not to mention that I had broken my tailbone and also torn my rotator cuff, and the physical therapist wouldn't listen to me. She was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a degree. And I'm like, really? I only train people for a living, and I'm a fitness coach, and I'm all these other things. Cause at that time I started Deadlift Diva in 2015. And so it was very insulting to me, because I'm like, I know this is torture. She was like, there's no way that you would be over here teaching spin class, doing CrossFit, doing workouts with the squadron, doing workouts with the fire department. And I'm like, I'm super fit. I'm just scaling down my workouts. So yeah. So long story short, you could imagine the amount of just stress and you know, I was not in a good place. And there was even comments made to my airmen from another NCO about his guys being pulled off fire trucks to be questioned by OSI, and just the horrible stuff that was being said about me. So it just made it that much worse. Luckily, I did have fabulous, I mean, on point leadership. I had a great commander. I had a great fire chief, a great, you know, even my supervisor above me who worked with me in the office. And these people completely, I mean, I've gone back and apologized, like, man, that was not the person that I am. And that's not, you know, they were like, you do not need to apologize. You know, we cannot imagine. I mean, they were 100% supportive. And I think after getting through that part, coming home ended up being 10 times worse, which sucks because it shouldn't be like that. So my perpetrator was protected. It was a command directed investigation, which is, if you know, if you're paying attention to what's going on right now in Congress and in you know, in the world and in the US specifically, obviously, they are working hard on passing laws and passing into UCMJ that the military sexual assault is completely taken out of the command's hands, because in my opinion, it should never be left up to the perpetrator's commander, because what happened in my case is exactly why. He protected my perpetrator from even being charged with a sexual assault.
Right.
He gave him a slap on the wrist. I mean, this guy was charged with physical assault and adultery and given a 6-month demotion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you can imagine, so I'm home now. I had just had my surgery. So it's March 2017. I just had surgery on my shoulder. I'm at home recovering, and my lawyer, because I was appointed as special victims counsel, calls me and says, hey, you know, they want to, like, they asked me what I wanted as you know, we kind of went back and forth, like what we wanted as him to be charged with. And obviously, you know, he was charged with adultery is what, 134, and physical assault is 128, and then sexual assault is 120. So they refused, he completely refused to do the 120 and did the other two. And so I'm like, and then they had the nerve to come back and be like, well, what do you want to see as punishment? And I'm like, why are you even asking me at this point? Because it's kind of, it's a joke, you know. And not to mention that I'm in treatment. So on guard, when you're in the guard, they put me on MedCon orders, medical continuation, because of the fact that I was dealing with all this stuff. So I was kept on active duty orders in order to get treatment for my shoulder, you know, all the LODs, line of duty determinations for the injuries that I had, and then also my assault. And I was ordered to go to mental health as part of my treatment plan. So I toy with the fact of, I'm like, okay, this guy just made tech, and he made tech sergeant at the very last time testing. Like, if he hadn't have made it, he would have been higher tenure and he would have been forced out of the Air Force. Well, I knew this. And so I pushed for that demotion, because I knew if he was demoted, he would be at a staff sergeant and he would be higher tenure, and they would have to force him out of the Air Force. So I'm like, it's a win-win. It may not be what I wanted, but he will still be out. This guy is a predator, and the JAG from his base contacted my lawyer after we requested this and said, well, the commander went ahead and just, you know, before I could even counsel him or, you know, give him my opinion or what me and my lawyer wanted, and he chose the demotion with a suspension, which means he wouldn't be kicked out.
Right.
Like, it would put him in that protected status of, yes, he's demoted, but they can't force him out under higher tenure. And it was a slap in the face. It was so disturbing, because I'm like, you know, I've been in the Air Force since 2009. And from day one, we have had it beat into our heads that there's a zero tolerance policy for sexual assault in the Air Force. There's, you know, all the briefings and all the crap that we have to go through. And I was like, this can't be happening. And so we requested a teleconference with his leadership. So I'm on the phone with my lawyer, and it's all men, you know, and it's like five guys from his base. I mean, he's got his first sergeant, his commander, the JAG, the base command sergeant. I mean, it was like, and I went off on his commander, because he was like, this is not condoned Air Force, or this is not conducive of Air Force behavior and the Air Force core values. And, you know, he can't we demoted him and blah, blah, blah. And I gave this lieutenant colonel a piece of my mind. I'm like, this is disturbing because you're basically saying that it's okay to go and sexually assault somebody.
Right.
And how would you feel if this was your daughter or your cousin or your wife? Or what if it was one of your other female airmen in your squadron that he did this to? Would you still be behaving this way?
So how did fast forward, how did you get with Tony Robbins and NLP?
So that year, actually, right when I came home, right after all this kind of, they did what they did, and I just kind of had to live with it, right? I don't even remember. I actually started reading Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins while I was deployed on that deployment. And I can't even remember. I got an email or a phone call from one of his like coaches or his recruiters or something. And they were like, hey, there's a Tony Robbins event. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see what and that was Business Mastery. And I'm like, And I literally, the guy told me what the plan was and the deal. And I was like, you know what? Sign me up. And so that was August 2017. And I ended up going to Vegas and going to Business Mastery and connecting with all these amazing people. And, you're in a room with people that are like me, that are brand new business owners or like millionaires, right? So it's the power of who is totally came into play there, because not only are you learning how to run it, but that's how I first kind of started my like little tidbit of NLP. And then the next year I was actually gifted a ticket to UPW Chicago, Unleashing the Power Within, by one of the girls that I went to Business Mastery with. She was like, hey, they're giving away free tickets. She joined as a platinum partner. And she was like, we have tickets. We want to give it to either military or firefighter, first responder. And you're both. Here's your ticket. And I was like, what? So went to UPW Chicago. And then that was in the heat of just the battle of me sticking it out with what my unit was trying to. I was diagnosed with PTSD and MST, and they forced me out. I mean, I wasn't given a dishonorable. But I fought tooth and nail, and these people destroyed my reputation, destroyed my career, said horrible things about me, said I was emotionally unstable, and completely did things that the guard should never do. I mean, I filed congressionals, I filed IG complaints, and it almost destroyed me. I mean, that was end of 2018. And I'm like, my career is over. I mean, I was halfway through nursing school to commission as a flight nurse. They knew I wanted to stay in and retire and commission. Yeah. And so then that was November 2018. And I lost my way. I mean, within 3 months, early 2019, I was like, what do I do? I mean, I couldn't get out of bed. I literally did not want to live anymore. I was like, I don't want to do this. And a girl that I met through my networking with Deadlift Diva, because I'd been in a unstoppable family, kind of like a tribe, and had done cool trips to Bali and Orlando and really learning about how to be an entrepreneur. And she reached out to me, and she was a social worker from Nova Scotia. And she said, Meghann, you need to take this course. And I was like, there's nothing that can help me. I'm so far gone. Like, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, that's horrible to say, but that was my mindset at the time. And so I went in and took my master. I met with who she introduced me to. And I was like, all right, I don't have anything to lose. So I met with Scott, who's my mentor in Boulder, Colorado. And he had the first NLP course I took, the NLP practitioner. And that was May 2019. And it completely, I mean, I released years and years and years of trauma and the assault and just all the major negative emotions I had tied into that were affecting my mindset and were affecting my ability to function. Wow. And it was, I mean, it literally is like putting on like a different set of glasses, and it's like you have a whole new vision in life. You're like, whoa. I mean, because your perspective has changed. It's because it's personal growth and development. It's mindset work, and it's
power of the mind. Yeah. Gene garbage out.
Yeah. And within 6 months, I mean, I co-authored, I was asked to co-author a book featuring 20 female entrepreneurs called She Did It.
She Did It.
Yeah. And that came out January 2020, but that, co-authored the book. I just started, and I sat there and I was like, how do I change the way that the military deals with sexual assault? How do I make sure that this does not happen to not only other people, but like make sure that we change the way we handle the program? And so I just started getting on the phone. I just started calling bases and calling their SARC and their SHARP and their, whichever acronym, calling their department coordinators for the sexual assault response teams. And I just started saying, hey, I want to share my story. And they were like, what? No survivor ever wants to really share their story. And I was like, you need to hear it. And so when I start sharing my story, they're like, wow, this is really powerful. And so that's how I started calling people up. I was very proactive about it. I'm like, you have to have, biggest takeaway I've learned in NLP and in any kind of entrepreneurial setting, so to speak, is you have to work with a sense of urgency, and you have to just go after you must go after what you want, because if you're not, what are you going to do with it? What are you have a vision and a dream and a goal, but you gotta act on it. So that's how I got where I'm at now.
No, I think that's perfect. And that's an awesome way to segue and end this, is because you finally found a freedom at the very end. And that leads us to the final question, which everyone waits for, is, you've served and you have sacrificed so much, even though you were in Italy, but you've gone through all these places. So Meghann Trapp, we ask you, based on everything that you've been through with the military, what does freedom mean to you now?
It's funny, because I used to have my idea of freedom, and it's changed now that I'm where I'm at. My idea of freedom is, being able to live the life that you align with, right? Like, we all see ourselves as a higher, like our best version, or who we strive to be. And creating that lifestyle, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I say, go after what you want, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to find a way to do it, and it's going to give you the freedom to live your life how you want to. I mean, for me, I used to think like, oh, I'm going to be a firefighter, or I'm going to be in the military till I retire, and then that's it, right? And now I have a completely different idea of that. So I'm like, I see myself traveling the world to continue that and sharing my story. And to me, that's freedom. Freedom is, helping other people find their passion as well, because it's not just about me. It's having that impact on my life, but also others around me, because if I'm able to help them or give them the tools for them to find their passion and their freedom and their thriving, then my mission is complete. I mean, that's all I see is freedom.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so beautiful. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on, and as James and I always say, we thank you for your service, and thank you for coming on. And we're going to put you in the green room, but please stay on. We'll do on there. But Casey West. Oh, he just had it on there. Sorry.
Thank you.
You are a badass. Like I said, I wrote it in the description. There's a reason I had it in there, y'all. It's because she truly is. So we appreciate it, and we'll. I'll definitely come. I got to connect you with Dano. Dano needs you on his show. You're going to get you on that. We'll do it right after this. Yeah. So thank you for your service. So. James, that was powerful. That was great.
Once again, and it's just a pleasure and honor to be able to share, bring her story, her legend out, because it goes back to the same thing. The reason why everyone that comes on the show, if you notice, the theme is they're always helping others. It's always about others. It's not about themselves. And that's what I'm really proud of with what everybody's doing. And, she's helping so much with veteran struggles through her struggle. Wow.
So much courage, but it goes against everything that we're told from the VA. It's not about popping another pill. It's about the power of the mindset. It's about garbage in, garbage out. It's about words that matter, words that deceive, and what you're telling. And so really appreciate her coming on and sharing her story, because that can't be easy each and every time. But James, who do we got next week?
So next week we have Eric Marshall, Grand Ole Opry performer, has been on the stage a couple of times, and one of my former Spartans. He's one of the reasons why I have the Spartan 6 name. So that's going to be a great episode.
They're going to play?
He will. I'm gonna request it. One of the secrets.
Live performance, our first ever
live performance. He will play. I think he might be able to bring his son on the episode too. So. They do some great stuff, and, it goes back to just giving back to the community, giving back to veterans, and just, about being a genuine good person. So I'm excited about next week. Bringing on a Spartan. Already had some wolfhounds on.
We already had. So see y'all next week. And again, thank you, Meghann. We'll put her links in the comments so you can follow her, connect with her, get her all her social media stuff on there. And thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
You've been watching the Lounge with Legends show on E360 TV, countering the narrative that veterans are all broken misfit toys. Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom. Serving in harsh situations, coupled with their training, have forged them into some of the most resilient and capable leaders in the world. And that's where we come in, celebrating the success stories, taking you on a journey of transformation from military to business. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But find us on Facebook at Lounge with Legend or at JTF214. Till next time.